Hi, in this video I'm going to use a picture called an array to help us understand what happens when we do partial products with 2 digits by 2 digits. So here I have the problem 23 times 16. And whenever we do a problem with partial products, if we have a number such as 23 or 16, which is big and difficult to multiply, the first thing that we do is we take that number and break it up into parts that would be easier to work with. So 23 can be broken up into 2 parts, 20 plus 3, and both of these numbers will be easier to multiply, easier to work with. 16 can be broken up into 10 plus 6. Both of these numbers will be easier to work with than the 16 that they make. Now, right now I'm going to draw a little grid that will help me to organize those numbers, and if it doesn't make sense at first, don't worry, it will as we move through the video. So I'm just going to draw a 2 by 2 grid and put each of the 2 parts, the 20 and the 3 along the top for 23, and the 10 and the 6 going down the right side for the 16. And you'll see how we use this grid in just a minute as we introduce the pictures. So here is a picture called an array, or a rectangle. In this case, this array is just making a rectangle that is 23 units long and 16 units wide. And notice that this special grid paper helps us to see groups of 10 really easily. So this is 10, 20, 23, and this is 10, 16. Now what happens is, when we do partial products, what we do is we break this multiplication problem up into some smaller problems. And the key question is, where do we break it up? So we're going to break it up right here, because on this side of the line there are 20 units, and on this side there are 3. Notice that this 20 is the same as this 20 here, and this 3 is the same as this 3 here. Now on the other side, I'll actually do it on here, we'll break it up right here, because this part is 10 units high and this part is 6. And notice that this 10 corresponds with this 10, and this 6 corresponds with this 6. Now let me use a little bit of color to show you how we've broken up the grid. Now you can see that the larger rectangle was divided into 4 smaller rectangles, and I divided the rectangle right along these lines that helped me to separate my 10s from my 1s. The reason why I divide the rectangle along these lines is because these smaller areas, for example the blue rectangle, will be fairly easy to figure out. The blue rectangle is 20 units long and 10 units wide. So I can see that the blue rectangle has 200 units in it, and I'll write that in here. And also I can write that in my grid, because 20 times 10 meets in this box for 200. Now let's look at the green rectangle, which is 3 units long and 10 units wide. Well, 3 times 10 means that the green rectangle has 30 units, and I'll put that 30 in here, because 3 times 10 is 30. Now let's take a look at the orange rectangle. The orange rectangle is still 20 units long, but it's only 6 units wide. 20 times 6 is a problem that I can do with extended base facts. So my base fact is 2 times 6, which is 12, but it's not 2 times 6, it's 20 times 6, so I add 1 0 to my answer. That means there are 120 blocks in this orange portion. The 120 goes here, because 20 times 6 is 120. So you see how the grid is helping me to organize my partial products, and it corresponds exactly with my picture of the rectangles. The last piece, the last partial product that I have to figure out is this red rectangle right here. This red rectangle is also 3 units long and 6 units wide. 3 times 6 is 18 units. I'll write the 18 here because 3 times 6 is 18. Now, you can't draw such an elaborate picture each time you have to multiply 2-digit numbers by 2-digit numbers, but it would be fairly easy for you to draw a little grid like this and write your 2 parts of both numbers along the top and right hand side. And in the grid you can put each of your 4 partial products. Notice that there were 4 small multiplication problems that we had to do to fill this grid and to find the area of these 4 different colored rectangles. So if we want to now find the area of the entire rectangle, what do you think we have to do with these 4 numbers? Well, I bet you guessed it. We have to add these numbers. So let's take 200, 120, 30, and 18 and add. This is 8, 2 plus 3, 5, plus 1 more is 6, and 2 plus 1 is 3. So my final answer is 368. I would really encourage you to watch a follow-up video of this exact same problem being done on the lattice, because I think you'll see that there are some very interesting similarities between the way this grid is set up and the way the lattice works for this exact same problem. I hope you found that the pictures help you to understand what's going on when you're doing the multiplication, and that you use this grid to help you decide which numbers you have to multiply with which numbers, because that part of partial products can get very confusing, especially when we have 2 numbers that we have to break up instead of 1.